So BR dropped the list, and it was the 100 best players, according to Bleacher Report, that have ever graced the NBA court. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Nikola Jokic and his ranking. Where did BR put him? Is he too high? Is he too low? We're also going to talk about how much higher can he get onto that list. We're also going to talk about the current Denver Nuggets. I want to have a little conversation about Tim Hardaway Jr. and how many positive defenders do the Nuggets actually have on their roster already, and can their defense be even better than it was last year? Ryan, Swipa, it's Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, y'all? This is Locked On Nuggets. This is your show every single day covering your Denver Nuggets here at Locked On. And my name is Swipa, here with Ryan. We're here to talk to you about the Denver Nuggets, talk about Nikola Jokic, the BR Bleacher Report top 100 players of all time. And we're going to get into a very, I think, thorough discussion about where Jokic ranks and where he might end up, y'all. This is going to be a special episode, y'all. But this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Ryan, this is going to be quite the show. You and I have had some all-time ranking conversations, really, I think about 2 years ago after they won the title in 23, I believe. I'm excited for this, Ryan. First off, how are you doing today, my friend? And are you ready for the conversation?
I'm doing well. I got some new setup here. Very excited about it. Got a new mic as well, so hopefully sounds pretty good to the folks. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how things differ from our initial conversations about this to conversations now. I do remember so some of that was unreleased stuff that we did for Mile High, but it was some of it was a conversation that we had that didn't end up getting released, but I think I recall having Jokic around 17, 18 on that list. I think I had Giannis pretty close to him, and since then Jokic has won another MVP. He's had another MVP caliber season, and ultimately I think BR kind of didn't see as much shift in his standing as maybe you do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just delay this in here. I don't really go by accolades anymore as much as I do level of play. I think there's a level of longevity and accolades and level of play. You have to combine all three. But I do not believe, and I've said this already, I'm with Kevin Durant, Jokic is one of the 10 best players I've ever watched and I think ever scouted and or looked at. And I don't think there's really a way for me to get around that. And so if I look at him and I say that I think he's one of the 10 best players I've ever seen and studied, why would I hold him back on an all-time rankings list when, for instance, I bring this counter to people all the time because they're like, Jokic is 3 MVPs in one final, and you can't become a top 10 player all time when you're doing that. Ryan Blackburn, I don't know if you realize this. You're a little bit younger than me. When LeBron James in 2012, 13, that season, do you know that he was already, for many people, one of the 10 best players to ever touch the sport, and he at that time had won 3 MVPs and 0 titles heading into the conference finals that year. And a lot of people don't remember that at that point, LeBron went to the finals in 2007, lost, 2011, lost, and he won his 3rd MVP on his way to winning a title. But he was given his 3rd without having won an NBA championship yet. So I think a lot of this is I've seen us give people the grace based on what we watched and the level of play versus competition and say that these players, we can acknowledge that they're already one of the best ever. You know, I think very similar with Michael Jordan. A lot of people when Mike, you know, Skip Bayless, he's now become the Michael Jordan guy. But in the 1980s, I believe you can go look at some of the articles that him and others are writing about MJ. And MJ came into his rookie year averaging 27 points a game. He averaged 36 points a game within the first few years of his career. He was already, by the time you get to 1987, 88, Michael Jordan won an MVP with the sixth best record, maybe the seventh best record in the NBA with 50 wins that year. Bird had more, Magic had more, and Isaiah Thomas had more victories in the season when he won another MVP. And on top of that, he won the DPOY. Jordan was already stamped and solidified prior to 1991 when he won a title. So for me, it's like we are willing to move the hypothetical accolades goalpost based on what we're seeing and what we're acknowledging. But I think when it comes to Jokic, for me, the collection of the body of work from 2018 to now, I would dare say that when Jokic first stepped on the scene, and actually, somebody else who has a very similar story, this is SGA. SGA, his first year making first team All-NBA was his first ever year making All-NBA, period. Jokic, his first year making All-NBA was his first year ever making first team All-NBA in 2018-19. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
Ryan, yeah.
I'm kind of surprised about the SGA stat. I figured that he would make one All-NBA team before then, but that
was the 2021 year, remember? And that was when he was the first really elite season for him, but the Thunder weren't really doing much of anything. And then they didn't make the next year, they didn't make he won in 2020. I mean 21-22.
I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass for that because that was his fourth season in the NBA, and Jokic made first team All-NBA in his fourth season. So let's just be honest about it.
Yeah. So anyway, Ryan, I guess for me, because obviously this is going to be a little bit of a longer conversation, which it should be, because I think so Nick,
we'll go a couple segments,
we're go over 30 minutes today. Who cares? Shout out Nick, it's my dog. I just think, Ryan, we're based on the list, and you can put it up. Where would you, when you look at this list, where would you have him? Could I even have some other players I would move around here?
Yeah, so I found this graphic. This is not the right frame. There we go. I found this graphic. Shout out to whoever put it up, Basketball Rush, I think it is. They've had, good organization here for this kind of list: MJ, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Bill Russell, Shaq O'Neal, what am I saying? Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant at 11 got a lot of the draws, I think, from people of why is he at 11? Spoiler alert, that's about right. It's in that kind of 8 to 11 range, I would say. Hakeem at 12, KD at 13, Oscar at 14, Jerry West at 15, KG at 16. Jokic comes in at 17, as we highlighted in the rundown. Dirk at 18, David Robinson at 19. I think that one's a little high. And then Julius Erving at 20. I think that one's a little low. I think Irving probably deserves to be kind of in that Jerry West, Jokic, KG tier right now, just based off of what he accomplished. But yeah, you look at this list and you don't have to go that far, with the accolades, with the overall number of seasons that Jokic has, before you start to say, oh yeah, that's a top 12 guy. That's a top 13 guy. I think, and we've had this conversation offline before, that Jokic wins another, whether it's finals, whether it's an MVP, probably ranking above Kevin Durant in a list like this.
Well, there's a few things that I've kind of readjusted on, and I'm sure there are some older listeners in here that can appreciate this. For so long I had Magic Johnson at 4, but y'all, I think a lot of people don't realize this. Larry Bird, from basically 1980 to 1986 and going into 87, was considered by a lot of people the best player in the NBA and better than Magic Johnson. Magic ended up winning 5 titles, but remember, Larry Bird had a 5-year stretch, the only one other than Jokic, where he finished top 2 in MVP voting. He won 3 straight MVPs from 84 to 86, was the most dominant player in the NBA, I would say, especially on both ends. He was a very good team defender. He one of the best passers, best scorers, best off-ball players ever. He was a great creator. Magic was the offensive hub for the LA Lakers next to Kareem, next to James Worthy. They had a really, really good team. But so did obviously Bird. I'm not saying that the Celtics did not. They had a great team. 86 might be the greatest team ever. Really, and we had 87 Magic, 87 Lakers. We had the 86 Celtics. We had the 83 76ers that year with Moses Malone and Dr. J and the rest of them. So there were some elite all-time great teams. I've just readjusted. I think that it matters what happened when you were playing in the same era as someone. And if you ask me just kind of a Jokic placement, how many players on this list can have a 5 to 6 year run where they're considered the best player in the world, damn near consensus. I would say by the time you get to 22, Jokic starts moving into consensus territory. I think 22, 23, 24, 25. And even though Jokic didn't win an MVP in either one of his best seasons, mind you, 2023 and 2025, I think those were standalone, all-time great offensive years. And I would make a legitimate argument that 2016 Steph Curry and 91 Jordan and 87 Magic, and then you can put 62 Wilt if you want in there. That's the 50-25 year.
Sure.
And then I think 25 Jokic. I'd make an argument that Jokic probably has the best combination of scoring, playmaking, and offensive rebounding and half-court creation that we've ever seen from one individual season from one player.
Yeah, there's an argument he's the best offensive player peak-wise of all time. And like being able to say that and not have like people will fight you on it with when it comes to Steph, when it comes to LeBron, when it comes to MJ, when it comes to Shaq and his individual dominance. But I understand why they say that. But you can understand why Nuggets fans and people around that are covering Jokic can say otherwise. Just what he does. And you argued about kind of that 5 or 6 year run. I think you could look at everybody in that top 6 except for Magic and say that pretty clearly they did have that 5 year run. You could also look to like one of Larry or Magic. Also, like you talk about those guys, they brought back the sport. Like they are, I would say 1A, 1B, and it was very clear that they were 1A, 1B with each other. And like just like it didn't matter necessarily who you picked. You knew that you were watching 2 all-time greats at the same time. But like outside of that kind of range, Wilt's, depending on how you feel about his run next to Bill Russell, I do think that Jokic has a top 5 peak. I do think that he has like in that top 5, top 6, top 7 conversation in terms of what his top level actually is. So very interesting. I do think that to me, like longevity does matter more. And we could get into this on the other side a little bit, but like longevity does matter. And that sustained level of greatness. It's one of the reasons why KG is up as high as he is, why Dirk is up as high as he is, and why Kobe is still considered like for a lot of people could consider him into that top 10, maybe even top 5 conversation. But for me, like if you're looking at just peak performance at their best, Jokic clears a lot of these guys.
On the other side, we're going to finish off this list and talk about where we would actually place Jokic. And you know what? I think this is going to be a very interesting part of our discussion. We'll be right back for more here. Locked On Nuggets. Now, if you're running a business, do you know that every missed call is money left on the table? Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on. That's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Now, OpenPhone lets you manage business calls and text from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. And their AI agent, it handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads, so you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. We'll be right back for more here at Locked On Nuggets. What's going on, y'all? We are back here at Locked On Nuggets. We're here having a great discussion about BR's all-time rankings. Make sure if you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, share, and subscribe. That way all the great people can plug into this soon-to-be 15,000 subscriber channel by the end of 2025. I like 5s. I want to see 5s all over the place. And also, if you're listening to this on the audio side on Spotify or Apple iTunes, please give us a 5-star review to tell the world about the great content made at Locked On Nuggets. We're here talking about Jokic. Ryan, where do you actually have Jokic ranked on your top 15 all time?
Yeah, I said 15, which is, I think, thinking about it and thinking back to the list that we did, where I think I had him ranked 17 or 18 back in like after winning the championship in 2023. And then he won a title, and then he had another like all-time great season. Did I really just move him up only 2 spots? It is really difficult to crack this list. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's easy just because of the last 2 years to say, oh yeah, he clears a lot of these guys. I do think I would have him above KG on this list. I do think I would have him above Jerry West on this list. But outside of that, I'm not sure I would have him above Oscar quite yet. It just does take time. And I do think that another all-time year, another like championship does really help. I do think that one of the problems that we've had so far, and with Jokic, not just Jokic, but with the Nuggets specifically, he hasn't gotten to the conference finals that often and into the NBA finals that often.
Oh boy.
It's not his fault, clearly.
Oh
like
boy.
We've talked about reasons why. But like, I do think that it's one of those reasons that if you want to be at the peak of certain lists, if you want to be the best player of your generation, if you're talking about it that way, I do think that it's very important to be able to crack those lists and to crack those barriers. So he's been very close each of the last 2 seasons, losing Game 7, second round. It's not his fault, but I do think that he is the owner of that.
I think to me, that's such an arbitrary thing. Because Anthony Edwards has been to the same amount of conference finals as he has. Does Ant have more winning volition in his DNA than Jokic does, or is Ant somehow going to get more stipulation for making 2 conference finals than Jokic because he was able to do it in the same era, same conference? You know, I even think about Giannis. Giannis hadn't been after the first round in the last 3 years. I think Giannis is the second best player in the world. Is Giannis? Does he get dinged for that, being injured in 2 of the last 3, then last year having a significantly worse? No, but this is what I'm saying. We're starting to get into some messy stuff now, because the other issue of this is why I think that when you're doing rankings, accolades and stuff is subjective. Because when you look at what Jordan was prior to Pippen getting there, Jordan before Phil came there, like, they weren't winning anything. They weren't beating anybody, but he was already the best in the world. Was he somehow not best in the world prior to 1991 when LeBron James was in Cleveland? Was he not in best in the world conversations in 2010 because he lost to the Boston Celtics and he couldn't get by him because he had Larry Hughes and, you know, these randoms, not random, disrespectful, but these people on his roster that weren't like relatively great relative to the other players. Then he had to get D Wade, then he had to get Bosh, then he had to get Kevin Love, then he had to get Kyrie Irving, then he had to get Anthony Davis, then you got to get Luka Doncic. Like, everybody else on this list basically played together, or Bill Russell played with other players over the course of his peak that were all other Hall of Fame talents relative to the era. And I think for me, when I'm looking at this list, the reason why this is so distinctly different, the only person up here that's like kind of close to Jokic's situation, I think, are Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, because those 2 players individually, their organizations are actually what let them down. Kevin Garnett, if he would have had a more competent situation, I think would have been a much more soon recognized all-time great player for the season that he was putting up in Minnesota. Not even just 04, but from 2002 to basically 2006. He was having an even better year with the Celtics in year 2, but then ended up going and getting hurt and all that. But he had to go to the Celtics with Rajon Rondo and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen in order to get the only chip that he ever won. Like, is that I know, but I'm saying that, is that a ding? Like, if is his level of play less impactful because he was in a dysfunctional situation in Minnesota? Did he somehow get better with the Boston Celtics? I would argue no. Like, his peak was in Minnesota, but he would get to the conference finals and then they're getting dog walk. Dirk was walking by all these people. By the time you get to 2006, Dirk makes the NBA finals. Now, granted, D Wade and them and Shaq were going crazy. D Wade had almost 100 free throws in that series. He was basically just attacking the rim with the right trigger button, and he just couldn't stop him. He was making mid-range jumpers. I think all of this stuff is like the reason why the Jokic thing is so interesting to me, Ryan. The best player, if he were to retire tomorrow, this is going to be year 11. The best player he's ever shared the floor with is, of this era, not even one of the 20 or 25 best players that have played in the 2020s in Jamal Murray.
Yes.
That is such a historical anomaly for somebody like this. Even Hakeem made the finals in 1986. He didn't make it again until 1994 after they completely revamped the roster with Robert Horry, Vernon Maxwell, and Sam Cassell, and then they got Clyde Drexler the next year. That's just the way it works.
I hear you. I do get it. And we've had this discussion before. You can have your arguments about the Nuggets and them failing Nikola Jokic and doing like, here's the thing.
You said it for the last 2 years they have. You've been
I get it.
waxing
I
and
do hear you.
moaning
I just
in your
that's not part of
writing.
the argument right now. Like we have talked about, yes, he is 5 straight MVP caliber years. That I've already discussed, like top 5 to 7 peak in the entire NBA's history. But that is not what this rank. It's not like what an all-time ranking is.
Well,
like,
why is Bill Russell
it might be
not number
yours.
one then?
It
Why
might
is Bill
be
Russell
yours.
not number one then? If you're doing accolades,
Wait, what?
why is Bill Russell not number one if you're doing accolades then?
I'm not doing accolades, bro. Like I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. You have to blend all this together. It cannot just be accolades. It cannot just be impact. It can't just be who's the best player. It's the greatest player. It's the one that was not just great for 1 year. It's why Derrick Rose probably didn't show up on this list. It's like, and I saw some arguments about that with like, why would Derrick Rose not be higher than Kyrie Irving? Like Kyrie Irving's on this list of like 60 or something. That to me, that's too high for Kyrie Irving. But like the most important thing in this for me is that Jokic, like he can go higher. We talked about this. Denver has a year this year where they have an opportunity to win the title. Whether it happens or not, we don't know. They have an opportunity. They are in that conversation. And if he does win a title, then we're talking about vaulting him up into this top 12, maybe even top 10 conversation. You win another title beyond that, you're probably jumping into that Larry Bird, Tim Duncan conversation in the top 8. So there is an opportunity here for him to continue to do it. In Denver, I think like there's only so much that they can do. There's more that they could have done, and we've talked about this before, but there's only so much that you can do. At some point, you just have to put it in the hands of the best player and say, hey, it's your job now, your opportunity to get it done.
I wish, oh man, I wish that was the excuse that Kobe got in the 2000s, which, well, actually he did. There's nothing he could do, but they still had the best player in the world. On the other side, we're going to finish this up. We're going to talk a little bit about the current Nuggets here at Locked On Nuggets. Now, ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Hey, I'm telling you, man, like subscriptions, if you don't watch out for these things, you'll be paying cable money for the subscriptions to HBO, to Cinemax, to Amazon Prime, to Netflix, to all this stuff. This is one of the best things you can do. You go to Monarch Money, you give them all your information. They'll tell you the subscriptions you're paying for. I remember I was doing the Washington Post, and all of a sudden I had a charge in there for $30-something for the Washington Post. I like reading the newspaper, but y'all, that's too much. And thankfully, because of Monarch Money, I was able to get that handled very swiftly. They'll even, if they have the ability, they'll even cancel it on your behalf for you. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. We'll be right back for the final segment here at Locked On Nuggets. What's going on, y'all? We are back here for the final segment of Locked On Nuggets, talking about the rankings from Bleacher Report, talking about Jokic's standing. Now, I agree, Ryan. I think Jokic will continue to move up, but maybe even the conversations around this playoff, some from within the Nuggets, media circle about how Jokic played, I think is so skewed to this level that he is held to that respectfully, honestly, even people like Bron in series failures, the way he was talked about, or Kobe when they lost a 3-1 lead, even though they were the lower seed. Like we've seen players have worse performances, but I think the way that he is kind of dealt with now in this, like underperforming, didn't do enough here, didn't do this here, didn't do that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, he could have been better, but like, damn, I've literally have seen people say that 2 40, 15, and 5 games, that's nothing. Because he had, 16 points one of the game, or 8 and 25 in game 4, or whatever else it was. I'm just like, it's weird that the way that we talk about, I think, this dude there are still people to this day, Ryan, that have Giannis as best in the world, which I think he has an argument.
It's ridiculous, honestly.
But they don't hold the same standard of like failure because they're like, well, what did you want him to do about it? But if Jokic has 3 healthy players in a game 7, you know, the conversation about him is that you should have gotten it done. So I think it's very selective, but I think that's just the way basketball works, you know.
No, it's understandable. Like, really quick before we transition into something else, what is the highest single number that you could actually put on Jokic in an all-time ranking? Like, if we assume that Michael Jordan is 1, LeBron James is 2, do you think he could be 3? Because I still think that he could get up to 3. Like, I think that he could get up there.
That's Kareem and him. I can see a path where if he wins 2 more titles, 2 more MVPs, and he plays like this level for 3 or 4 more years, for instance, I can see 4. I can see you make an argument for 4.
I think it's got to be a 3-peat. I think right now, starting this year, it's got to be a 3-peat. And if you do it, like, it's like, because here's the thing, it's unassailable.
But a 3-peat in the 2020s with this CBA, bro, like, I don't know if that's possible.
But they can. Like, that's not the question. The question, and they just traded for Cam Johnson. They've added some nice role players. They've done a whole bunch of things. I think to put them in place where they have the opportunity to do so. We'll see whether they actually get there. But like, before we kind of change the rundown of this, I was going to ask you whether this is like the 2020s. Are they the Jokic era or are they the parity era? And I think that there's an argument for both of those cases, in part because like you don't think that a 3-peat just may not be possible because of the CBA and different things that are kind of limiting factors. Despite the fact that if we weren't in this CBA era, then maybe we could have a conversation about Jokic being a 3-peat candidate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible, but even the Thunder, like, you know, people ask me about like, could I even see some people saying they got like, you know, Jokic, you know, you got the Nuggets as the favorites. I'm like, yeah, I mean, my opinion on the Thunder is lower than it was going into the playoffs. And the things I knew about the Thunder to be true, not that they're not a great champion, I think relative to like what the competition is, I think the Thunder easily could have lost the final if Hallie was there. I think the Thunder easily could have lost to the Nuggets if they had 2 more healthy players. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was all on the table for them. And if I hope the Nuggets and the Thunder play again, you know, second round again this year or conference finals, because I kind of want all this to be put to bed a little bit. I do think having the best player in the world, which for most people right now is Jokic, matters, but you have to be able to build an infrastructure around them. And the Nuggets have done a really poor job at doing that in the last 2 years. But this year, we'll see. I think they should. I think if everybody's healthy, I think they win the title this year. So obviously I'm, you know, in a new place now.
Right. So it's at least a possibility, and we should be open to that as kind of a change. I do think that kind of the baseline here, I do think the Jokic ends up becoming a top 10 player of all time. It'll involve them winning another championship. Whether they can or not remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. But like with the level that he has gotten to, as long as he plays a reasonable amount of time, like he's won 7 all-star appearances. He's got 6 all-NBAs, I'm pretty sure. Like, if you get another 5 of each in there, like that's very, very impressive.
What year didn't he make all NBA?
I believe it was 2020.
No,
the year that they manipulated things so that
he made second team in 2020. So he's made 7 all NBAs and he made second team that year. Because he made first team in 19, second team in 20, first team in 21. 22 he made first team, 23 he made second team, 24 he made first team, 25 he made first team. Yeah, Anthony Davis made the center.
You are correct. I don't know why I think he should have made first team all NBA that year, but they decided to manipulate things for AD.
Who played I think 23% of his minutes at center that year. That was funny. I remember that.
Gotta love it. But hey, is what it is. Yeah, you know, they lauded Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, not JaVale, but like whoever the other center was on that roster in order to give Jokic some problems. But it was Anthony Davis who was actually the center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember. Brian, actually, let's not do the Tim Hardaway thing today because you know we're kind of running out of time or whatever.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I actually want to ask you because somebody asked me this in PC earlier today.
I bet they did. They're like, how do you think that they could actually win? You don't think they don't even have any positive defenders on their teams?
I was going through the list of, I think, teams that are going to have really good defenses. And I said, you know, I was doing like possibilities. I said, there's a possibility the Nuggets have a top 12 defense again this year. Yeah. And I said that they had a top 8 defense in 24, but they really had a top 5 defense in 24. In the year prior, they had a top 15 defense, but the last 40 games of the year, they had a top 6 defense. So
that year specifically, it was from December 8th to March 3rd when they actually were caring about the season.
right.
Like they were the first offense or third offense, and then the 5th ranked defense in the NBA. Like they were peak.
Or that was 23 or 24.
23.
Yeah.
Championship year.
And then 24, a lot of people don't realize this because they say, where's the rim protection in Denver? Denver had I think the 6th best rim defense in the NBA that year on EPM. And then they had, I think, the 3rd best 3-point defense, maybe the 1st best 3-point defense that year as well. Now, KCP's not here. But, Ryan, when I was doing the math in my head, I said really the biggest issue they had last year beyond the culture was crap. Malone and Booth were fighting. The personnel was crap. So all that stuff. Aaron Gordon was hurt, y'all. Like, I don't know if people were just like, it just flashed in their mind. He played 51 games last year and was healthy for half of them. He was dealing with injuries all year. And if you look at his numbers, Ryan, I actually went in the system in the player index just to look some of this stuff up. Aaron Gordon last year had his worst measured defensive season with the Nuggets in 2024-25. But if you go to the year before on Basketball Index and you look at some of his even his rim protection stuff, Aaron Gordon in 2023-24 was listed as an A-level rim protector. And that season, team for shooting 4.6 points worse with him as a rim protector. And then the very next year, they shot way better on Gordon. So to think that you're going to have Cameron Johnson, who I've already explained, is a defensive upgrade from Porter. Christian Brown, as the year went on, again, he finished as an A-plus isolation defender. You just let multiple defenders are playing now in the starting lineup, and you're going to add Bruce Brown back into this building. Veteran and Tim Hardaway Jr., who knows where they're supposed to be. Peyton Watson getting more minutes. DeRon Holmes getting minutes. I think there's an argument that they can get back to a place where they're a top 12-ish, 10-ish defense in the league.
I expect it. I actually think that it's pretty clear that they can do that. And the big reason why it's not just injury related, although I do think obviously Aaron Gordon being healthy and better as a backline defender, somebody who is a connective defender for them, that'll definitely help. It's all up here, man. It is all mentality. And the most important thing that Denver didn't have going for them last year, they didn't have belief. They really didn't. Like you think about the way the regular season was going, they were just trying to get through it, man. They were just trying to get through to a place where, okay, I guess we'll attack it in the playoffs. We can't really figure things out. They tried different things. They tried different combinations. They varied up defensive schemes at least a little bit, but the effort wasn't there. Jokic was hit or miss on the defensive level of effort. Yeah. Murray was hit or miss. Christian was trying to make up for so much that I don't blame him for struggling early on in terms of like trying to put out 17 different fires because Michael Porter is struggling. Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic saving stuff for the actual postseason. Like I think there were so many reasons why they didn't end up being good enough defensively. Now you bring in a couple of different guys. Ryan Saunders, who was their defensive coordinator last year, he's gone. And I think that there's a reason for that. I really do. And I think that Jared Dudley will really help them on the defensive end. They're going to redesign some things. I think that they're going to try to instill some defensive schemes, defensive principles that will make things a lot better overall. But whether it's Jokic will be back to being a slightly positive defender, Murray probably not. I don't expect him to be. Christian will be, though. Cam Johnson, he'll probably be average. I don't think he'll be below average like he was statistically. I think he'll be average. Aaron Gordon is positive. And then Bruce Brown, clearly positive. Valanciunas, probably negative, but there's some good things there that he does from a rebounding standpoint and from a space standpoint that you definitely need under the rim. Peyton Watson, positive. Tim Hardaway Jr., negative. I do think that he's a negative defender at this stage, but he at least knows what he's doing. So we'll see what happens, but it does feel like Denver's more in line with at least an average ranking as opposed to the below average that they were last year.
I'm sorry, man. I really don't want to just narratives too, man, because I hate the way if you want to say Jokic had a bad defensive year last year, that was true.
Yeah, it is.
But Ryan, the year before, I'm looking at it, the same numbers, like his rim protection stuff was the best it's ever been. In the regular season.
Again,
Yeah,
like he had so much burden on the offensive end that like he had to shut it down on the defensive end someday. You know this. Like I'm not gonna sit here and like act like he was all sunshine and rainbows on the defensive end this year. He was pretty bad most nights.
No, I'm not contesting you. I'm more so talking about the narrative around him. I think the
Yeah.
issue is that when the personnel's been there, he's been better. But I think the issue is that if you can't score, which they had issues scoring without him last year, like people don't remember, he was averaging damn near 40 minutes a game through December, y'all.
Oh yeah.
And was averaging a 30-point triple-double. Like, it was wild, the things that was happening. They have a team this year. Like, they actually have a structured team. And the last point I'll make, David Adams said it the best when he was asked by Katie Wingy the difference between the team. They're going to have a real competition this year. If you want to play, you got to bust your tail in training camp. If you're going to play, you got to do the right things on the floor in preseason and regular season. Julian Strother and Peyton Watson, you want minutes? You going to have to get out there with Deron Holmes, with Bruce Brown, with Tim Hardaway, with Jonas. You're going to do the right thing. Make the rotations, make the reads, get to the right spot. I think that all the things that happened last year, bro, I don't know if they're going to start off with a 12-2 record or nothing crazy. I remember, I think they did something like that in 2018-19. But they come out with like new energy, as David Adams was talking about with Aaron Gordon and Jamal and Jokic. I can definitely see their defense like coming out on a storm.
Jacob W says Ryan is obsessed with energy. Yeah, obviously, it's a very, very important piece of this entire conversation, especially when it comes to the defensive end. It's about want to, it's about desire, it's about understanding what you're working towards. And the Nuggets were not working towards a championship last year during the regular season. They didn't have that mentality. And so I'm hoping that a little bit of a change in personnel, a little bit of a change in coaching staff, a little bit of a change in like sort of belief, I think will definitely shape that energy in a very, very positive way. So we will see what ultimately happens with it, man. But I am excited. I do think that Denver pretty clearly going to be a top 3 offense in the NBA, and then a top 12 defense, I think, is on the table.
All right, y'all, that's going to do it. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Where would you have Jokic ranked currently? Where do you think he could climb up to? And do you think that the Denver Nuggets, they have enough defenders on the roster for you to think they're going to have a big upgrade from where they were this last year? That's Ryan. This is Swipa. This is Locked On Nuggets.